up? What up? What up? How's everybody doing?
Doing real good, man. You know what? To be honest with you, Jameed, I feel like I feel about my fantasy team. I felt really great on Saturday, and I don't feel great on Sunday. And same with my two fantasy leagues. I got one where I did pretty well, and the other one I did not do very well at all.
I went 0-4 in fantasy this week. It was not a good week for me.
Oh, bro.
Well, while we're confessing, hey babe, while we're confessing, first of all, as you can see, I'm in a different setting. I'm on the road for work. So if I become a problem, if I'm not connected well, kick me out. These guys are smart. They'll keep going. Mm-hmm. I went a decent 3-2. If I go 3-2 all year in college football gambling, I'll be rich.
Okay.
Pros 0-4.
Ooh.
0-4. And part of that was our Falcons, which we'll get to in a second. So let's start off with college. It was a lot of shakeups around the country that have an impact on us. We're all SEC guys. We're talking to, first of all, guys, we have Hunter Thompson from the Falcons Nest with us. Hunter, welcome. If you are interested in good football analysis and breakdown, Hunter and Adam Holloway, they bring the fire, the heat. Adam is great at breaking down. Hunter is a smart guy who's doing a lot of big things. So he's on the show with us, to talk about our how our season started off and what's going on. So we're all football fans here. So we can start off we'll go around the country a little bit real quick. First of all, let's start off at the top of the AP. 2 weeks when there was a conspiracy to keep two SEC teams out of the championship. Because it's okay. You looked at what was coming back and you said Georgia was the 5th ranked team in the country. Got to 2, and I told them the country is going to be watching 1 and 2 a long time. So that whole thing didn't work. And what's the danger of happening is somebody else from the SEC is going to come up. The SEC actually had a good week. Even sorry Vandy actually won, which I mean I couldn't believe that. I thought so. So South Carolina has done something that has plagued them a little bit lately. Is when you're a team like South Carolina aiming for that 7, 8, 9, and some years 10 wins, you can't lose the games that you're supposed to win. So that East Carolina, it seems like a little thing for people watching, from afar. But those of us who watch SEC football, that was a game that they may have lost before, and then that would have put them behind the 8 ball. So then as they're coming down the stretch, but I think their defense, they have only given up like 22, 23 points this season.
It was, I think it's 17 because it's whatever we gave up against Eastern Carolina.
Oh, you shut that team out? I mean, it was
FCS. It was Eastern Illinois or something like that. But
there's a bunch of people who don't have that record against the FCS teams. So Texas A&M did not look good, and they lost their starting quarterback. But that wasn't why they were looking good. They were getting pushed around by Colorado, and to see an SEC team get pushed around was a little disheartening, especially when you had in the nightcap, Arkansas pushed Texas up and down the field.
Sure did.
And Arkansas is probably the Vanderbilt of the West.
I wouldn't go that far.
Who's lower than Arkansas?
They're more like the Mizzou of the West.
Yeah. I would say Mississippi. Well, I don't think you can't compare any SEC program to Vanderbilt.
That's true. That's true. I give it up. You guys are right about that. But, if you're Texas and you're talking about, they might be we might fulfill the rest of our contract while Steve recruits some more defensive linemen. Then you go out to the Pac-12 that had an absolutely terrible weekend outside of Oregon beating your boys, Ohio State Buckeyes?
That's not his boy.
That's not me. I'm a South Carolina fan.
I said your boys.
Oh, your boy.
Partner.
Oh,
Your
Adams.
partner,
Yes.
And so, people were all over Adam on Twitter, like, yeah.
I feel bad for him. You
don't even root for Oregon. I never go like, I would never go to you, Hunter, and go like, aha, South Carolina lost to Kentucky. I don't have a dog in that fight. But anyway, the Oregon win was good for just Oregon, because the Pac-12 is pretty much done, right? Because Washington lost. They're 0-2.
Mm-hmm.
UCLA is still in it, but
yeah, they're 2-0.
Their margin of error is 0. Then you have Utah lost to BYU for the first time in 8 years.
Ooh,
right?
That one.
Yeah. Utah lost. Arizona is 0-2. Arizona is 0-2.
I'm not surprised by that one. They're not.
And Arizona State didn't cover. So Colorado lost. They looked good, but they lost. And then the big one that started the dominoes was USC lost, and they fired their coach. So that started a domino. One, it helps Georgia with recruiting, but not just Georgia. 4 to 6 best quarterbacks in college football are from where?
California,
yeah. Right? So the big bear in California is USC. And now, with UCLA, with Chip Kelly being back, but 4 of the top 6 guys are from California. So that means that means a lot for a lot of elite teams that are recruiting guys against USC. And then it sends waves, because it is one of the premier jobs in college football. Mm-hmm. The problem is, when Pete Carroll was there, much like he has in the NFL, he had total control. He could do whatever he wanted to. And that resulted into some minor violations, some forfeitures of some Pac-10 at the time, championships, Heisman trophies. So the board said, we'll never give a coach that kind of control. Mm-hmm. Well, if you want Urban Meyer, if you want James Franklin, you got to give them that kind of control. So
okay, hold on.
The guys that they're throwing out there may not want to go there because of that.
Hold on. Can y'all hear me? Okay, couple things. Now, if USC does that, that is the wrong move. That is not the right move. You're not going to be able to control a college football program in Southern California. It's just not going to happen. And what you got to do is you're going to get an NFL coach. You got to get an NFL coach with pedigree. You got to go big. You got to get the name, and you got to make it where he's.
I think that's the right move. I think there's some talk about Bieniemy.
That would be. I heard that today, and I said, "Boy, now if they get Bieniemy."
My only concern about Bieniemy. Here's my only concern about Bieniemy. When you go from being an offensive coordinator in the pros to one of the biggest programs and like you pointed out, Ricardo, there's no more distractions for a college football team than USC. Mm-hmm. Let me say that again. Ricardo lived in LA for 10 years. Mm-hmm. I've been out to LA a bunch of times. In the last 2-3 years, I've been in LA 20 times. I was stationed in San Diego, Camp Pendleton. But, and I say the distraction level, whether it's the beach, the fact that the game starts so early, the fact that there's Hollywood. Well, first of all, every good-looking woman out there is a Hollywood starlet. Every good-looking guy is a Hollywood starlet. So even for our players of, the Carl Nassib type, it's still distractions. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, like, however, whatever shape you think you're in, when you go out to Southern California to the beach, you're going to put your shirt on and be like, I need to get myself together. It's Hollywood. When you say something is Hollywood, it is the most Hollywood program. Yeah. Nick Saban could not make it at USC. The way he likes to run his players and control it, it's just very difficult. And so that's what happened. They gave Pete Carroll the control, but he knew it had to be some give and take because there's a bunch of people out there.
Especially now in today's college football, because now with that NIL, it changes everything. You're going to have a guy who's basically knows how to talk to pros, because that's almost what we're doing. You know, that technically
right. I mean, the NIL. Let me just jump on my soapbox and jump off. Is the NIL was the greatest scam by the NCAA. We said it's not fair that the NCAA, that's making millions and billions of dollars off these kids, are not paying them. They said, you guys can pay them. So, they're still, that's one of the things that's, everything has changed. Not for athletic programs. They're not paying them anything. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox, but that's one of the greatest things. Hey, Falcon fan, thank you for stopping by.
Yeah. I wanted to, before you go any further, I think the SEC had a great weekend last week, and I thought we should talk a little bit more about it. One thing, I know Hunter's going to chime in.
That's where we're going.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
No, you already on it.
Oh, boy, guess what? Hello.
Hey, what's going on, Michael? Thank you for joining.
Michael.
I know Michael doesn't like college football.
We'll get to the Falcons in a minute, Michael.
But go ahead.
Okay. I
want the SEC's weekend.
Well, I just wanted to say the SEC in particular had a good weekend, and I think the South Carolina win was a big deal. But one thing that I was going to tell South Carolina fans is you guys got a good coach, and when I say that in college,
you do.
I don't mean it the same way I mean in pro. When I say that in college, I say, can he recruit? Can he recruit? And Shane Beamer can recruit for us, for the rest of you folks. But down south, can he recruit? And Shane Beamer can go get them kids. He can get the kids in Florida. He can get the kids in Georgia. He can get the kids in Carolina. He can get the kids in Texas. That guy can recruit. And you guys got a good – but it's going to be – you're not Georgia. You're not Alabama. You're going to have to,
work a little bit.
Seasons, But I like what they're doing in South Carolina. I was like, that's a good fit. What do you think?
I love the Beamer hire because he was there when Spurrier was there. He was like the head recruiting person when Spurrier was there. When we were landing the Gilmores, the Clownies, the Lattimores, when we were getting all those guys, that was Beamer. So I was really excited to get him back. And now that the dude's coached under 3 Hall of Fame coaches and Lincoln Riley.
Right.
So it's one of those things where it's like the dude comes from a form of pedigree. So
he does. He does. And I think that his time with his dad, which he didn't immediately go to his dad. He went elsewhere, came back to his dad because he wanted to earn it.
He went to Tech first.
So actually he was a great assistant, not at Tech.
Not at Tech.
I saw him in an interview. He went somewhere else, and then he went back. He went to a lower level school, learn all. Then he went to Tech. And so one of the things that he was talking about, I think, is Apple, South Carolina, is Virginia Tech wasn't a traditional power before his dad built the program in an unconventional way. And I think that that's the path for Carolina, build a fence around South Carolina, start making inroads into North Carolina, and then Georgia makes too many players for Georgia and Alabama and Auburn. It's still a bunch of good guys left over that don't quite make sense. Hey, what's going on, Gerald? What up? So I think that was a big for South Carolina, and again, we talked about this a little bit, Hunter, to teach our we're smarter than us from up north who get ignored. SEC. The Pac-12 should have been going Pac-12, because all those losses affect you from a power ranking structure. Now, any win over Washington means nothing. Any win over top means less. Even though it's it just lowers your power score. Your ideal world, you should be for all the teams in your conference to beat everybody but you.
Yep.
That's why whenever South Carolina, Florida plays, I'm South Carolina every time. I'm cheering for South Carolina against, whoever has the best record. I'm cheering for them because we need that, to higher their rank. But anyway,
hey guys,
that was.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Apologies for the glitch. Jameed's for you guys just coming in. Jameed's out of town. He's still with us, and he's helping as best as he can. So if it's coming in and out, with me and Hunter will kind of piggyback. It's coming in and out a little bit, Jameed, but I can hear you fine right now. But it's coming in out pretty bad. Can you hear him okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I say it got a little bit better. There was a little rough patch right there in the middle.
Sorry. I'm in the hotel.
Yeah. Making money.
So I do agree with you that the SEC had a great weekend. Yeah. And then coming up, we got an important weekend, right? So we play South Carolina. Talk to me about that, Ricardo.
Well, you guys are in trouble, I guess.
Yes.
You know what's crazy? University of Alabama Birmingham will probably be able to beat our next three opponents. I'm not even sure exactly. They're pretty good. UAB beat Florida State 31-0 week 4, and you guys saw not Florida State.
Florida State.
Florida State, right? No, was it Florida State or was it Appalachian State?
It was. Wait, when?
Was it Florida State or Appalachian? Who did Florida State play this week?
They played
Jacksonville State.
Jacksonville State. My bad. Jacksonville, because I wanted to touch base with that too. Yeah, Jacksonville State. They beat them 31-0, and you saw what Jacksonville State did to Florida State. Guys, listen, man. I'm not a super hyperbole guy. Thank you, Jacksonville State. Thanks, Gerald. I'm not a super hyperbole guy. That might be the best Georgia defense I've ever seen. And I'm telling you, you get, bro. There's kids that we're not even playing yet. That's like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do with all this talent? They're doing a really good job of.
Well, they had a lot of stats. The one that impresses me most is in game 2, knowing that the game 1 we played the number 3 team in the country, right? Mm-hmm. That was number 2 at the time. We have 44 players with tackles.
Yeah,
40 players with tackles. For our non-football people, that means 14 guys are making tackle, and we're only 8 quarters in. So, I know they've been crying down there. I
feel bad for
the right coach. You got the right coach. It's just going to take a while to get that culture turned around. Let's talk about a couple of other big games. Khalid, my sister is a double ACC, a Duke grad, and a Boston College law grad. So, that's a good question.
Yeah, I can answer. Answer that in a second.
Yeah, we're gonna let Ricardo and Hunter talk about that. Let me serve it up on the tee. I'm in Alabama. I'm in Alabama chat groups because my best man is from Alabama. Mm-hmm. Besides Ricardo and Hunter, my other best friend. They think that Georgia is the number 1 team and Alabama is the number 2 team. They thought that Georgia would have beat Mercer worse than they beat UAB because UAB would have probably beat Mercer 45-17 themselves. Mm-hmm. That was the score, 45-17. So, an important kind of measuring stick game is coming up. Alabama is playing Florida. It's early. We're going to play Florida. I think that's going to be one of those measuring stick games for the committee. Give me your thoughts, Hunter.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like it's almost like the Patriots, for instance. Like you can't really bet against Saban, like you can't really bet against Belichick. I think Georgia's the team that would give Bama the most problems just because of their defense. But I'm not sure if Georgia's offense is at the point of being able to do what Bama's offense can against an equal defense. Because Bama's defense is still phenomenal. Bama's offense is phenomenal. Georgia might have the better defense, but their offense, I think, is without a doubt worse. And I'm not a big JT Daniels guy, so I'm not quite sure.
Boo!
No, I'm actually not either.
I mean,
But
like,
boo you too, Ricardo.
Yeah, I'm not.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's going to be a fun game, but you're going to have to score over 20 points to beat Bama. Like, you have to. I'm not sure if JT Daniels can do that for the Georgia offense.
A couple things real quick. Gerald, to answer your question, I'll know by tomorrow morning. I've been hearing rumblings as far as Travis Hunter, a big prospect, ready to flip. There's a lot of rumblings going on right now, to be honest with you. That was huge for us to show that we do have an offense. He's right. What Hunter just shared. I've had those same initial concerns. There's a couple things I wanted to go over real quick. Our defense was the best defense in the country last year. I know, just you'll have to look it up and say, oh, I don't believe it. Just kind of Google it. But that didn't matter because Alabama had the most prolific offense in the history of college football last year. If you remember the game, though, we gave them for that first half, but we had a midget quarterback, and they was like, oh, you guys have a midget quarterback. We're just going to make him sit in the back in a pocket, see if he can throw it. Started all those little rollouts, dump offs and whatnot. We lost by like 3 touchdowns because he can't see, of course. But we had the best defense last year, and I'd say it's markedly better now. That's from the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, as you guys know, George Pickens is probably out for the foreseeable future. That's our number one receiver, our number one tight end. Darnell Washington is out, but good night. I mean, this kid Bowers looks like, I don't know.
Who was the first one to identify him as special?
Oh, come on, man. We knew he'd be good. You didn't know he'd be that good, bro. It's a great problem to have.
Who could have known? Who could have known?
And we still have a few. We have I'd say about 5 between Dominique Blaylock still playing hurt. Burton is still hurt. Jermaine Burton's still hurt. We're going to talk Falcons right now, Gerald. Our offense will be a lot better by the end of October than it is right now. So just bear with us. You'll get a little piece of that Saturday. Let me know what you think.
I'm sure. I'm not expecting much for us on the game.
I was telling anybody. I said, I know it's 32 points, but I bet. But
the only thing that would stop me from betting is just the connection between Kirby and Beamer. Nick Saban doesn't tend to run on his ex-assistants, and everything Kirby does is Nick Saban like.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one last point as far as Georgia Bama thing. Alabama's best defensive player is Will Anderson from Hampton, Georgia. He's at Hampton. He's in Alabama, not just because it's Alabama. Don't get twisted. Alabama's going to get there. But he's at Alabama because he wouldn't start for 2 years at Georgia. Sounds crazy. Yeah. Look at the roster. I'm telling you, he wouldn't have started last year. He's only a sophomore. He's just that good. And he wouldn't start this year. So what would you do, especially with the NIL now and all this? You want to go somewhere where you can, get shine as quickly as possible if you're that level good. He's that good, as you see. But, yeah.
So so Michael, our buddy Michael Bello said, as a non-football, any must-watch game football this Saturday. Mm-hmm. So let's start off with the first watch is Georgia against South Carolina. Big Georgia is going to, because Georgia's going to be measured against Clemson, because Clemson has their target. Clemson is playing Georgia the rest of the season, no matter who's across from them in Georgia. So that's important. But the most important game is Alabama against Florida. A bunch of pros on both sides. Alabama did not look as good as they looked against Miami, and Miami kind of showed you why, as they barely struggled to beat Appalachian State. So is Miami good, or is Miami? So it's going to talk on both sides. Florida has a semi-quarterback controversy. You have Emory Jones, a Georgia boy who followed Dan Mullen to Mississippi State and Florida. It's finally his chance to sign, but actually have a better freshman that should be starting. He had a little hamstring tweak, and I think that I think he had a little hamstring tweak that Dan is going to use to hold him out of the game. So those would be the games to watch for me. Other than that, it's kind of nondescript slate, but you should be watching a bunch of games to keep up with, prepare for the NFL draft and what have you.
And as a Falcon fan, prepare for the future. We'll talk about that in a second.
And speaking of, speaking of the Falcons, we started our season. And probably what was, if you look at the schedule, don't take my word for it. Pull up the schedule on your phone, pull up the schedule on your computer, pull up the schedule in your mind, ask Siri. That was the most winnable game that the Falcons are going to have all year. That doesn't mean they're going to go 0-17, but there's always a couple of trap games in the NFL, right? But if you say, I'm going to give you a whole offseason to prepare for a team that we think is like the fourth or fifth worst team in the NFL, and you get to play them at home and kick off at 1 o'clock, that's a game you should win. So,
yeah.
And not only did we not win, it wasn't a heartbreaker. We didn't have a couple of plays that made the game. We got blown out. We got blown out of our socks. We were the only two teams that didn't score a touchdown. Only two teams in the NFL didn't score a touchdown. We were the only team that did not score at all in the second half. So, and our defense, which people were saying was scrappy and whatever, we had Stephen Means play 83% of our snaps, which no NFL team gets more than one or two snaps. So talk to me, Hunter. We'll get to that question.
Yeah.
Yeah. That game was rough. There were a lot of things that went wrong. I mean, obviously there were some bright spots in it, but as a whole, I don't think Stephen Means should be seeing the field as much as he is. Like you guys were just saying.
I'm a Stephen Means guy. I like him.
I'm not.
Swearing.
In here? Yeah, he said he's a Stephen Means guy. I said I am not a Stephen Means guy.
No, I mean, as what he's supposed to be, a rotational guy or defensive end, great in that role. But he's starting for the Falcons and taking 83% of the sacks and having a sack or even a pressure.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway.
Yeah. Just looking at Ogundeji and JTM, like they should be seeing the field a lot more than Stephen Means should. Honestly, they should be seeing the field over Dante Fowler too.
Yeah.
But
I had a rough time with that, Hunter. I had a rough with that. Like, talk about, we'll turn back to the season preview, Falcons next year. All four of us thought this would be a rebuilding year, despite that we didn't see it. And we said there's a mixed with the retention of Matt Ryan, but it was honestly some mixed on the field. As Hunter pointed out, we're getting guys that know our time. If we're going to go 4-13, we need to see all those young safeties. We need to see all those young edge guys to see what we have. To your point, Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's no reason that the young guys should not be seeing the field right now. Like, Richie Grant should be seeing the field more than Eric Harris. Jalen Hawkins should be seeing the field more than Eric Harris. And that's nothing against Eric Harris. It's just
I like Eric Harris.
He's a 33-year-old journeyman backup who is there for veteran experience and leadership, which is cool. Like, that's good to have for the locker room.
I just like him because we're not paying him.
Exactly. Like we're not paying him at all either.
I don't like him.
But like it's the same reason that like Jalen Mayfield should be seeing the field, even though he did not do well. He should still be in those meaningful reps in. I'll go more in on Jalen Mayfield in a minute. Now's not the time. But like all these young guys should be seeing the field.
Hey,
and
Trevor.
I don't know why they're not. Like Ogundeji should be getting meaningful reps instead of Means.
Yes.
JTM should be getting reps over Means. I didn't realize Means was like, I think he's like 29 or 30.
Yes.
Or something like that.
I think he might be 31 or 32.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was as old as he is.
Yeah,
until like a few weeks ago.
We didn't get a lot of playing time, so it seemed like he was a new guy coming to us. But he was he was kind of older when he came to us the first time. So
to answer George's question real quick, I think he says, "Do you think Ridley is a number one receiver?" I'm not sure. Are you saying it in reference to fantasy? Because if you're saying in reference to real life football, it's obvious. Yes, he's the number one receiver. He's going to do really well.
Yes to both.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. Yeah. Gerald's being
Gerald has his sarcasm thing now. So who did you think played well? Who played well on offense for you, Ricardo? And then we'll.
You should probably guys handle that first. I'm much more pessimistic than you two. I'll just say this. Before Sunday's game, I had us about 4 or 5 wins. After talking with Jameed and he's explaining Vegas, I thought, wow, you know what? Yeah, I mean, we could get 7 wins. By the end of the second quarter, I knew that we ain't going to win more than 4 games. We don't have the personnel to do it. And honestly, it looked like I didn't like our coaches. I don't know if we're going to touch base on it. I didn't like our coach's post-game comments. I understand what you're supposed to say, but his body language told me a lot. And I'm concerned. Because so
you don't have anybody who you thought played well?
I didn't see anybody that I liked that I even want to mention.
You said Patterson. I would agree with him on Patterson.
I like Patterson.
I thought Patterson, Lindstrom played decent, and Matthews, right?
I thought Hayden Hurst played well too.
Yeah. And so
okay. Yeah, I'll do that.
And so one of the things, so here's one of the things. Here's one of my things that I want to break into, and I hope I'm not breaking up too bad, right? Yeah. I thought Patterson played well. I thought Matthews and Lindstrom and Hurst played right. And so, but then when you come back and say, so if that's the case, we should have seen a lot of posts on social media saying it wasn't Patterson's fault. It wasn't Jake Matthews' fault. It wasn't Hurst's fault. It wasn't Lindstrom's fault. But we didn't see that. We saw this rush to say it wasn't Matt's fault. And again, I thought Matt was tentative on the red zone things, but that would have just made that just would have made the score 32-14. We got totally dominated, right? Like let's be clear that we got totally dominated, and it wasn't Matt's fault that we got totally dominated. But this rush to disinclude him from the things on the team that need to be improved is just like, how can we say, well, it was nobody's fault, or it was everybody's fault but Matt? Their team, it was everybody's fault. And does Matt take too much of the blame? Of course. But when you make $44 million, or no matter how much money you make, right? Because Josh Allen, because those extensions are trick. Right now, he's making nothing, right? And so even with the extension, Josh Allen, forget about the amount of money he makes. He is taking the blame. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, you can't abscond him from that. So that was my thoughts on that. Mm-hmm. Hunter, who did you think played okay on defense? Can you come up with anybody? I had one or two.
I actually have two. I think Fabian Moreau and AJ Terrell both played fairly well. Outside of the pick play by Philly when they picked Moreau. But like other than that, he played pretty well. And Terrell played fairly well. That's kind of it on defense, to be honest. I thought Debo
really nice.
I don't think Debo played well at all.
Debo had one of his worst games as a professional, and yeah.
Has Debo lost a step, y'all?
Okay, so I was actually talking to Adam about this earlier. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but ever since we lost a true nose tackle, whether that be Rashid Hageman or Dontari Poe, Debo's numbers have declined. I think he needs one of those space eaters because he's not big enough to shake off the pulling guards and the pulling centers. He needs a big guy to start clogging up the holes to let him just fly around and make plays. And I think that's been a huge mistake on our organization as a whole to never address the nose tackle problem. Because when we had a big nose tackle like Poe and like Hageman, we saw – I want to hug you too. But like that's when we saw Grady have the best games. That's when we saw Debo play out. That's when we were able to do so much more with the defense because we were able to send 4, maybe 5 if we had to. Like we were able to keep – like that's what we were able to – like we were able to do all the things that we were supposed to do when Dan Quinn's under defense scheme thing. And we never really addressed that position going forward after Poe left.
And so let me tell you, nose tackles are hard to get, Hunter, because when you draft them, you don't know if they can play. The best way to get a nose tackle is to get a 30-year-old guy that you already know can play right before you. Hopefully, you don't have to pay him a lot, and then But let me tell you, here's a problem with this. Look at the film. We have by far the smallest line in the NFL. I don't care. I had to look up on NFL.com. Biggest guy is an undersized defensive tackle who's like the size of a defensive end, who's our best player. But if Grady is 275 during the season, that's a lot, right? And that's our best and our biggest player. Everybody else is small. So when you look at these plays of Kelsey is a finesse guy. He's a tough finesse guy, but he's a finesse guy. They're blowing people off the ball because we got Means, who's probably 240, 250, and Fowler, who's maybe 230, whatever, trying to set the edge. We gotta find some big guys, but it's too late now. So let me help some Falcons fans. Why don't we trade for this guy? Oh, they had a healthy scratch of Colin Farrell. We can't trade for anybody. This is the team we have. There might be turnover off the waiver wire, but don't look at anybody. And you're right. You're right, Gerald. Even Debo and Foye are small. So
Debo's like 230.
Yeah,
Debo's small.
We are small in the trenches. We have a small offensive line, we have a small defensive line, and then we have a small linebacker.
Hold on. And the worst part of it is we're smaller and not the fastest. What you mean the smallest and not the super fastest? That's the dumbest part.
Bro, I don't get why we keep drafting 3 techs and 5 techs. Like, I love Kaminsky, I love Taquan Graham, but why do we have them and Davidson and Grady? And why do we sign Jonathan Bullard? Like
we still, you're right.
Why?
We still don't have a 1 or a 0. Not a single one that's like
we're playing Davidson, who's a 5 tech at nose tackle, and it's okay. Like he's a decent backup there, but he should not be a starter.
He's a tough guy. He's probably the biggest guy we have, but he's not a earth mover. He's not a Vita Vea. He's not and of course, it's not like Vita Vea's growing trees. But
I wanted Vita Vea so bad in Atlanta. He was my draft crush.
Right for the world. Good luck.
Hold on. Let me address something that Gerald Gooseby said. So, Kaminsky is my son, right? Because I was at a client in West Virginia while the draft was coming up, and I fell in love with him, and I was like, man, a couple years on the practice squad and get up to his real size, he could be a good rotational guy. And this is one of the things that I say on Twitter, and I'm gonna call it out when it happens. We have our certain guys that we criticize. Hunter, I'm gonna let Hunter get on his soapbox because Jalen Mayfield might have had the worst pass blocking rating ever on PFF.
No, not might have. It said 1.4. Goes to 100.
So
someone had a 0 one time. So
his score was extremely low.
Mayfield.
Guess who had 2 more points? Who had 2 more points? Who was the lowest ranked tackle in the league this week? Caleb McGarry. Guess who was the lowest ranked defensive lineman on the Falcons with almost the same score as Mayfield? My son Comiskey. It was heartbreaking, but I just saw it. It's like, what is he doing? What is he doing? He's too little to take guys on, so he's trying to go around guys on every play. He talk about run fit wrong every play. You know how they say, "Oh, Mayfield lost us the game." They were just running right at Kaminsky because the back could cut right off him because he could not set his, whether it was the edge or really stand his guard up. That guard dominated him. They didn't even have to double team him. That was the sad thing. They could double team great all day because there was one play I saw on Brian Baldinger's breakdowns where both defensive ends were laying on the ground.
How does it make y'all feel when an analyst can come and break down our stuff at halftime to the T and he's exactly right on everything he says? And this is not like someone who's like a super, he's a pretty decent analyst. But Brian Baldinger should not be able to break us down. This is like the 3rd year in a row where he's telling us exactly what's wrong. He makes it in layman's terms, and we don't do anything to adjust. Almost out of spite.
Yeah, I like Baldinger, but like the fact that he can do it so consistently is very frustrating.
I mean, we do, and I would say, Gerald, we have a level below Jags because we have a bunch of light Jags.
I would kill for Jags. I would kill for some Jags.
I can work with Jags if they're smart and they listen. I can work with Jags. We don't have all Jags. Some of these guys.
And what's a Jag, Hunter, for people not familiar with that terminology?
Just another guy.
Just like me.
And we have, unfortunately, 3 out of our 4 starting linemen are not Jags. They're below Jag, right? Our middle linebacker that we're paying the second, third, in the top 4 in middle linebackers. He might be a fast Jag.
I think he's slightly better than a Jag, but not significantly better.
I'm going to look at some more tape, but I still think he has lost a step. I remember it was him and White 2 years ago, Tampa Bay, and everyone knew it. And when I look at him now,
has he hit 30 yet, Devo?
He's late 20s. I mean, 30 is kind of it. Y'all know my rule. Don't pay running backs. Don't pay linebackers.
Or the defensive running backs known as linebackers. Yeah. But I think, to be frank, if things don't turn around, I want to go back. So I agree with. Can you pull Gerald's?
Which one?
Gerald said that Debo is so this is a new experiment this year, and I would say after one game, I would say Gerald Debo is not an outside linebacker.
I think he's a Will, and I think Foye is a Sam, but I don't think we have a true Mike.
Yeah. So he didn't look that good. And so I think I'm gonna scroll back up. I'm gonna find it because I want to answer all questions because that's what we promised to do. We promised to answer all questions. And we had a question from Michael that said, "Do you think we're going to play better
against Tampa Bay?"
Against Tampa Bay, right? I'm going to say this. I'm going to answer. We are going to play better. We are going to come out tough and hitting, and we're still going to lose by a significant amount.
I don't think we can play worse than we did against the Eagles.
No, it may be impossible to play worse than we did against the Eagles, but everything is still comfortable. The Bucs have a good run blocking and especially good pass blocking defense, and maybe our blitzes look better against a non-mobile quarterback. Jalen Hurts was able to escape with little to no effort, right? It was his best game as a pro. I've never seen him look like that, and so yeah. I mean, but to Gerald's point, we have to blitz. Those guys we have are going to look like a two-man rush against that line. So we're going to have to blitz. So it's going to be a pick your poison deal.
I at least want to hit Brady. Like if we're going to get picked apart by Brady, I at least want to get a hit on him occasionally, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, I expect we're going to play better. And Gary, it wasn't. So he did a good job of reading our blitzes. So none of our blitzes. So he already has the mobility and more pocket savvy than he had last year, and he was just able to see what was going and slide out of the way. Yeah. Because remember, we're blitzing with Jags. Mm. When in the past, when Dean Pease has had this guy, he's had more athletic guys blitzing. Yeah. So if to make it simple, if the blitzer is Eric Harris versus what's my man's name in San Diego?
You're talking about
Derwin James, right? Then it's going to be a different level of athleticism for the quarterback to escape that. So because we're trying to run his scheme the best that we can without uber talented guys.
Why is Gerald picking on us today? I don't want to remember that, bro.
I remember that. I remember that game. And I can't say that I cried, but I can't say that I didn't cry. It was heartbreaking to see a guy get picked on that bad. One of the few things that
kept him in. Had nobody else on the bench that was like, hey man, at least let's see a different number the back of his jersey.
Yeah. So I think I want us to be competitive. I don't want it to be hard to watch. That Eagles game was hard to watch for a bunch of reasons. But yeah, Blitz in Montana, before he got old and broke his back, that was just, speeding up the process. That had no effect. I was team Montana is the best quarterback ever until Brady just forced me to admit that it was him.
Listen, hold up. Just so we're on the same. There are two different arguments. If you're arguing GOAT in terms of what the person accomplished, Brady's the GOAT. I can't deny this. But if you're arguing GOAT in terms of the most talented, he has never been the most talented in his time of playing. It's Aaron Rodgers.
Yes, sir.
Now, right now, it might be Patrick. Oh, that kid. That's the one guy who has something to say about it. But if we're arguing GOAT in terms of talent, it is not the same person. That's all I want to say.
Well, if you're going to have that argument, then Bo Jackson is the best running back ever.
In what?
In NFL.
In college?
In the pros. What he did in the pros and his little carries was I like Aaron Rodgers.
I see what you're doing, but you can't do that because you can't make a GOAT.
You can't make a GOAT argument on a guy who has a losing playoff record. You can't make a GOAT on an argument on a guy who has won Super Bowl. And this is not Aaron Rodgers hate. This is not Aaron Rodgers hate. Now we're bringing all kind of oldie but good guy. I don't know what they're talking about. It's Tom Brady. No matter how you feel,
in terms of accomplishment, that's what I said. In terms of accomplishments, it's Tom Brady. I get that. But in terms of talent,
you mean a throwing test instead of foot games, a rollout?
No, in terms of if I'm picking a good. No, listen to me. Just so we're all on the same page, Mr. Antonio. Nope, listen to me. And this is for any sport you want. If you're arguing GOAT in terms of what you accomplished, it's Tom Brady. I give him that. But GOAT to me is like, hey, if we're picking teams against the space aliens to come down, they got their football team and I got my football team, and I can pick anybody since the beginning of time, I'm picking Aaron Rodgers over Tom Brady. Tom Brady ain't even. I'd pick a couple guys over Tom Brady. All right, listen. We could do this argument.
I would love having second pick in that case. We got a snap so I can get Jonathan Ogden to protect Tom Brady.
Yeah, I put Marino. James Priest is right. I put Marino in my top 5.
I like Marino. Listen. You know how I feel about this whole. Championships is the only measure. You know what I'm saying? That's whatever that is. But Marino was doing something than everyone else was doing. Brady had the best coaching and the top 10 defense for 6.
So let that man run.
Who's your GOAT, Falcon fan?
He says, I'm going.
Oh, my God.
Man.
Oh, my God.
I don't listen.
You can argue
Montana.
You can argue Rodgers. Maybe you can argue Manning.
I think those are the only 3 or 4 you can argue over him.
I will never let you feel comfortable speaking again on the We That page, sir. Anytime you say anything, I'm going to be like, Breeze. And I actually love this argument, though. But not Drew Brees.
But
Drew Brees is amongst the GOATs until you put him on the road in the grass. And then he's one of the worst quarterbacks.
Right. So, but that leads to our, kind of reviewing what happened, unfortunately, for the Falcons. Right?
Yeah.
The South went 3-1, right? And everybody looked pretty good. Everybody looked better than the Falcons did, right? Mm-hmm. The Saints looked dominant. And I don't want them to look dominant. I don't like Sean Payton. And by don't like, I mean, like, if he became available, I would start a GoFundMe for him to become our coach. But that's the kind of I don't like Sean Payton. Him and Jameis Winston and being able to kind of exploit some parts of the field that he hasn't been able to, if we're honest, in 6 years is scary. Tampa didn't look.
I said that, by the way.
Yeah,
I warned you.
We both said that for the season. Tampa didn't look. Tampa's not going undefeated. First of all, let's get that out of the way.
Yeah.
But and then Carolina looked competent. Jets came back in the second half, and what I said was, if the Falcons were going to be in the playoff argument, the South is playing the East. We needed to go undefeated against the Giants and the Eagles.
You did.
So that's one game that we would have needed to get to 8 that we're down. And then Giants have got to be looking at their schedule like we're going to beat them. And so there's nobody not looking at their schedule like this is our win on the season. So we have the Jets, but I'm sure the Jets feel like if there's a team that on our schedule we can beat at home, it's the Falcons. So I mean,
that game's in London, so like we already have that disadvantage going too.
Yeah, right. On the road, London. We haven't looked good the last few times we've gone to London. So yeah, that's. I wouldn't be going on there. So
I think we win like 4 games, 3 or 4 games.
I think that to me the Philly game was the most winnable because it's not in London. You don't have to fly all the way over there. It's not coming off. Listen. That was our most winnable game. So if we win 4 games, Hunter and Ricardo, we're going to beat 3 teams that we shouldn't have beat. Real quick, who's looking good to you throughout the NFL? I didn't think Kansas City looked as strong as people have predicted them. Who's looking? Give me your top 3 in the AFC, Hunter, after week 1. Way too early.
Oh dear God. I think Cleveland was looking really, really good. The fact they were able to hang with KC like they did. I mean, obviously there's that fluke punt incident, which that was just, it was crazy. It should not have happened. I think the Chargers look good. The fact they were able to.
I think the Chargers look good too against one of the better defensive teams.
Exactly. They were able to contain that D line a little bit. And
Sean Slater, good night.
The third AFC team, I'm just going to go with the Texans because they actually won a game. That Texans roster is horrible.
And that leads to when when will Urban Meyer quit Lotto?
Week 4.
Ricardo, who looked good
in the AFC? I like the chart. You know what's funny? I like the entire AFC West, except for Broncos. I like the Chiefs.
They went 4-0. They went 4-0.
Yeah, they did win, but I think that's the best. I like the Chiefs. I like the Chargers, and I like the Chiefs and like the Chargers, and I actually did like the Raiders because I'm not sure. It's still early. I don't know why everybody hates Derek Carr but me. But I think they got the best tight end in football. I really like Darren Waller. I think he might be one of the best receivers in football. John Gruden said yesterday that's the best player he's ever coached.
John Gruden just says anything.
He coached him.
Yeah.
Did he? You sure he did?
He coached him.
That doesn't count. He wasn't the head coach. I think he means as the head
coach. He coached him in Oakland.
No, he did not, did he?
Yes, he did.
2000. Seattle when that happened.
You know how many Hall of Famers that man's coached?
Yeah, I know, but I don't think he was the head coach.
Ricardo, can you take us home, brother?
Yeah. Oh, I apologize, guys. We thank you so much, Hunter, for coming out. We thank all of our fans and our friends for joining us. Hunter, can you put on a thing where we can see you at, Hunter, real quick?
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter at HThompsonNFL.
Awesome. And as you guys know, we're on YouTube. We're on Twitter, and we're on YouTube, Twitter, and IG. So for myself and for Jameed, the professor, I want to thank each and every one of you guys. Peace up and A-Town down.
Thanks, guys.